All right, so today we're going to be going over Google Apps. Primarily, we're going to be talking about the suite that Google offers that is similar to Microsoft Office. And we have little slides on, comparing and contrasting each option as we go through. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, let Rebecca know, or type in the chat if you're watching this remotely. If Rebecca has your email address associated for this class, you will receive all the slides. So no need to write down information if you don't want to, because you'll gain access to all the slides. And also she'll send the recording of this presentation out to you as well. If you have any questions after the class is done, uh, feel free to let Rebecca know, and we will oftentimes add information to the slides. The reason why this is nice is because if you ask a question and it would be useful for everyone else to be able to see the question and answer by adding it to the slides, it means this is more of a living document. So the next time you look at this, if you need a refresher in a month or two, you'll see updated information. So there are a lot of Google Apps available. This is just a list of, I don't know, about 20, a little bit over 20. And I have a short slide on each of these after the main ones we're going to do. But, search, maps, Gmail, Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, there's a lot of Google blank. And all of these I'm somewhat familiar with. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I've tried to leave room at the end of this presentation for a question and answer type of thing. But as always, and as Rebecca mentioned, if you need one-on-one assistance with anything like this, feel free to drop by on Wednesdays from noon till 1. The first one we'll talk about is Google Docs. It's an online word processor for creating and editing documents. One of the nice things that you're able to do with it is if you have older documents from, a decade ago, you can still put those into your Google Drive, and then it will ask you if you want to convert them into a Google Doc, so you're able to see, edit, and kind of interact with all of your old documents. The one negative associated with this is if you upload a Word document, it will convert it into a Google document. So it will not be editing the original document. It will create a new one that you're then editing. So in order to share it with somebody, you'll then, who only uses Word, you'll then have to export it as a Word document. But it's fairly easy, and if anyone wants, we can go over how to do that. This application from Google is comparable to Microsoft Word, which is the big boy, and LibreOffice Writer, which is an open source alternative to Microsoft Word. One fun fact about Google Docs is it was one of the first online Office suites to offer real-time collaboration features. Basically, what this means is it allows you to share a document online and work on it at the same time as someone else. So you'll see like a little indicator of where your partner is while they're editing the document. This is really nice for kind of remote Zoom meetings, things of that nature, because it will allow you to collaborate with someone else in real time using the same document instead of how we used to do it, which was email the documents back and forth, inevitably mess up, and be editing the two document ago version while they've already made changes, and then you try to add those two documents together and it never works out quite right. So the real-time collaboration is kind of the big selling point, or was the big selling point for Google Docs. Um, for all the main ones, we're going to have like a little slide that goes over a comparison to its Microsoft Office alternative. And while I have reasons to choose Microsoft Word and reasons to choose Google Docs, I think I want the takeaway to be that both are very good and both essentially are able to do the same thing. For example, on the left-hand side, I see advanced features as a reason to choose Microsoft Word. It offers a wider range of advanced formatting options, including more complex layout styles and typography tools. And this is true. I have access to Microsoft Word, I have access to Google Docs, and I have yet to really find something that I want to do that I have to use Word for. Just kind of as an example, they're both very feature rich. They both offer online functionality. Microsoft Words is a lot better. And the big reason to go with Microsoft Word is when people see a docx file format, they know what it is. Everyone uses Microsoft Word, all businesses do at least, and it's very kind of ubiquitous. It's the more used one for business, so more people are familiar with it. So it's basically the industry standard. The thing why you would choose Google Docs is primarily if you exist in the Google ecosystem. If you don't want to pay Microsoft for using the offline versions of Microsoft Word, or kind of you just find it more convenient. It's kind of nice that Google Docs is online primarily. What this forces you to do is it forces you to have your documents in the cloud. One of the reasons why that's nice is it doesn't matter if your computer is dead. It doesn't matter if you left your computer at home. You can, as long as you can get into your Google account, you can access all of your documents and you can edit them, save them, print them, whatever you need to do. Here's just a slide on 10 things you can do with Google Docs. Um, the thing that I find the most important and the best reason to use Google Docs compared to Microsoft Word is I really appreciate how Google tracks changes. On the right-hand side of this list, you can see a bullet point for track changes. See a history of all edits made to the document. This is a very well thought out feature, especially whenever we're talking about the collaboration that exists for this application, where if two people are editing the document at the same time, you can go backwards and see exactly who wrote what or who edited what part of a document. Do we have any questions on Google Docs? And again, at the end, if there's any questions about any of these, I can go and open up the respective application and do a little show and tell. All right, Google Sheets. So this is a spreadsheet software. Um, Creating, editing, and sharing spreadsheets. It's very comparable to Microsoft Excel and LibreOffice Calc. Once again, Microsoft is, Microsoft, and LibreOffice is the open source alternative. Um, the negative associated with Google Sheets compared to Excel is it truly does not have as many functions. And the reason why this can be negative is if you have a Microsoft Excel document that you've been using for a decade and you have all of these custom functions written into it, all of these very specific things that, go from this table to look at this table to pull data from a third table. Uh, it Whenever you convert it, upload it to Google Drive, and it gets converted into a Google Sheet. Occasionally, the functions do not match one to one, and there will be an issue with either the formatting or the result you get in some of the tables. Um, Once again, reasons to choose Microsoft Excel and reasons to choose Google Sheets. Uh, the main thing it comes down to here is Microsoft Excel is incredibly compatible with Microsoft Excel. I realize that that is an incredibly brave statement to make, but basically, if you use Microsoft Excel on an older Excel document, you don't really have to worry about things getting messed up. Whereas if you convert it to a Google Sheet, you have to spend a little bit of time to make sure that it came over correctly and that the numbers look right, to make sure that all the formulas that you're using are compatible with Google's alternative. Here's just a list of some of the things you can do with Google Sheet. And essentially, it's if you can do it in Excel, there is a 99.9% chance that you can do it with Microsoft. Or sorry, if you can do it with Microsoft Excel, you can do it with Google Sheets. I will say one main benefit of Google Sheets is it's cloud-based, no surprise there, and you're not really limited to your computer hardware. What I mean by this is sometimes you'll have an Excel document that is absolutely massive. Um, and if your Excel document is absolutely massive, sometimes your computer does not handle an Excel file size that big very well. So you'll have really long load times when switching to a new table. You'll kind of have blank spaces as everything renders. Whereas because Google Sheets is cloud-based, all the information is kind of happening on Google servers. So you can take a very low-powered device and still be able to manipulate an incredibly large spreadsheet. Does anyone have any questions on Google Sheets? I know Google Sheets, we used to have pure classes on Google Sheets that were, once or twice a year. Um, but it gets kind of complicated. So we only offer that whenever people specifically ask for it now.
Tim, can you still create templates in Google Sheets?
Yep. The templates in Google Sheets are pretty good. Um, the other benefit with both Google Sheets and Excel are that they are very popular programs. So if you need any help on how to do a specific function, you're virtually guaranteed that someone else has had that question and you're able to find the answer pretty quickly. But as far as templates go, it has a very robust template system. It, has an online portal where you can choose from hundreds of templates already. And it also has a pretty good track record of if you find a template for Microsoft Excel, you can generally get that into Google Sheets without any real problems. All right. This is exciting. We're beating the time I expected. All right. So Google Slides. We're currently using Google Slides. So it is Google's online presentation software, basically for just making and presenting things like this. It's comparable to the big boy, which is Microsoft PowerPoint, and LibreOffice Impress, which is the open source alternative. Once again, this application allows for real-time collaboration because that's kind of the signature thing that Google kind of buckled down and got right the first time was its real-time collaboration. So if you're working on a presentation for a board or a committee, you can have multiple people editing the same presentation at the same time and generally not have any issues. Um, reasons why you would pick PowerPoint, it's kind of a copy paste of the reasons before, but it's the original. You open up a PowerPoint presentation from 10 years ago, and you'll get a PowerPoint presentation that looks pretty much exactly the way you intended or that it was originally with a new version of PowerPoint. It's the industry standard, so Microsoft makes sure that it is backwards compatible with all of your previous presentations. Whereas this is specifically worse than Google's integration with their document converting from Word to Google Docs, converting from PowerPoint to Google Slides. I generally will experience some sort of layout funkiness when doing that conversion. So it will change. You'll basically immediately lose all transitions if you like transitions. It doesn't really like kind of the individual slides that have individual elements on them. I don't know if anyone's ever used that, but with PowerPoint, you can basically tell it, hey, if I hit the right arrow key on this presentation, I want it to do something on this slide. Whereas Google Slides doesn't really like that. It likes each slide to be its individual thing and not a sum of its components. That being said, because Google Slides is a little bit simpler, it is a lot, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to use. Just out of the gate, it gives you less options, so it's just more straightforward process to make slides. Um, One of the cool things with Google Slides that I have not taken advantage of yet, just to show you how impressive it is the laser pointer function. If you press L, your cursor turns into a little laser pointer. I find that kind of neat. Hopefully, you're able to see that pretty well. Um, but Google Slides, just like PowerPoint, it has presenter mode where you can have speaker notes where you can see them, but the audience can't. It's pretty good at embedding videos and pictures and things like that. As always, if you have a theme or a template that you really like, you can save that. And then the next time you do a presentation, you can just say, use this theme or template, and it'll automatically load all the different types of slides you want. Any questions on Google Slides?
Yeah, Tim, can you hear me? I'm on Zoom.
Yep.
Yeah, I do presentations and I want to get better at PowerPoint and I don't I mean I'm pretty basic with the PowerPoint, but I would like to learn how to embed video, how to do really interesting presentations, but I don't know how to learn how to do that. Is there a place I can go to get a tutorial?
Definitely. Rebecca, do you know if we have one of those at the library again?
Don't.
Okay.
Not okay.
I can definitely find and recommend some tutorials. I'll just have to find them afterward and make sure they're up to date. Um, because PowerPoint and slides is one of those things where you can go in and try to fumble about, but it's much easier with kind of the level of complexity to kind of do it right the first time, so that you don't have to go back and change a lot of things. So I'll find you a tutorial that doesn't require a login to use. The library used to have things like lynda.com, which turned into LinkedIn Learning, which had fantastic resources for this sort of thing, but not enough people used it, unfortunately. So the library decided to stop spending money on it.
Is there anything online?
Oh, 100%. I'll just need to find one that I can recommend. Uh,
Okay, thank
but
you.
I'll find it whenever I'm putting together the giving Rebecca access to the slides.
Okay.
And then I'll link it in one of these slides, and also I'll have her separate it out into the email that she sends out.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. So Google Calendar. This is also one of the programs that we've done as a separate breakout. Just me talking about Google Calendar for a full hour. I imagine it was incredibly riveting, and I am more than willing to do that again. Google Calendar is essentially just an online calendar for scheduling everything, events, reminders. You can block off time. If you get fancy about it, you can create rooms. And what rooms allow you to do is if you're a part of a business, you can basically book time in a room. And then you can also see if anyone else has booked time in that room. Uh, but again, that's more for a business thing. It's comparable to Microsoft Outlook, the calendar portion of it, and Apple Calendar. And one thing Google does pretty well with Google Calendar is the integrations with other Google services. Um, all right, Microsoft Outlook versus Google Calendar. This is kind of one of the first ones on the list that I truly believe they are separate. They are comparable, but they are different enough to not be an immediate If you prefer Microsoft, go with Microsoft. If you prefer Google, go to Google. They are good at different things. Um, they're better at different things. Outlook calendar is just so much more business focused. It has a lot more business features. It has better scheduling commands. It's better at delegating access and allowing someone else to manage your calendar in a team environment. And it just has a much stronger business focus. Now, if you're an individual, I personally think that Google Calendar is better because you don't need all of those options and it kind of just gets a little bit confusing. But we have those people who absolutely love their Outlook calendar and they'll even use their Gmail account with their Outlook calendar, which is something you can do. And if you're used to using Outlook, I'm definitely not going to try and pry you away because using Outlook is a way of life, and I've come to love it, and I use both. The better things with Google Calendar is it kind of just does things without you needing to tell it to. And it's a lot kind of simpler and more user friendly. One of my favorite things that it does really well is travel time. If you set a location that you need to get to, so for example, if you set your location as the Boston airport, I have a flight leaving at 10 and I set it at 10. So for me to get to the Boston airport at 10 p.m., it will be able to predict what time I should leave. Now, you may say to yourself, so what? That doesn't really matter. The reason why I really like this is there have been times when I've looked, a week beforehand and I've put in that I'm leaving, I need to get to the Boston airport at 10. And then it says, okay, well, that's an hour and a half at this time of day. Just leave an hour and a half early. And then day of, there's an accident. And Google, because of Google Maps, knows that there's an accident. It will actually alert you to leave earlier because it knows the drive is going to take longer. I imagine everyone is cheering right now with how amazing that is. But it's saved me a couple times, and I just absolutely love that feature. Specifically, if you are using the app on your smartphone, that's when you'll get these notifications. It will tell you, hey, to get to Boston Logan International Airport, you should really be leaving in 15 minutes. And then that reminds me that I need to leave very soon to get to the airport. Um, just like all the other Google stuff, it integrates with other Google services, primarily Gmail and Maps. Um, you also have the ability to set different kinds of reminders. You have options to set different reminders for different calendars. So you can set up for yourself multiple calendars. You can have a work calendar, you can have a family calendar, you can have a personal calendar. You can choose to share the family calendar with your family so that everyone has access to it and everyone can see the events that we have planned. It's very nice. It's very full featured, and if you start using it, especially in like a business or a family environment, it's pretty difficult to get away from it. And I mean that in a positive way, just because it's very good at managing time slots. It also has an integration with something called Google Tasks, which allow you to create tasks to be done on a given day. For me, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Malcolm in the Middle, but there's a short at the beginning of one of the episodes where Hal goes to fix a light bulb and finds like five broken things before he would be able to fix a light bulb, and it takes forever. So for me, you can set tasks like create that shelf or remember to do taxes or things of that nature. And then whenever you're done with them, you can hit the little checkbox and say that you've completed them. for that small, tiny, infinitesimal amount of dopamine that you get whenever you complete something important. All right, are there any questions on Google Calendar?
Tim, are they still, is there still the option of setting, on your calendar dates and appointments and color code them? So say all your medical appointments are in blue and all your lunch dates are in green, whatever.
Yep, that's one thing I love about it, is you can color code it. The other thing you can do is you can set a default color for a calendar. And what I mean by that is if you are like me, you can break all those things out into their individual calendars. So you can have like just a medical calendar. You can have just a birthday party, events, whatever calendar. And all of those can be different colors. So whenever you're scanning, you can put medical appointments in red or something, and then whenever you see something red, it's a doctor's visit. So yeah, you can do all sorts of colors, which just visually is very useful to me. I'm still enjoying this laser pointer, by the way. All right. Uh, so I of course had that list of 20 plus Google applications. I have a lot less information on the following ones, mainly just this main title page. But I figured we'd go over them and see if anyone had any questions. Right? So Google search, I listed this because I kind of had to. Um, I don't think anyone really has questions on Google search. We have done classes on Google search in the past of how to do kind of more advanced things with Google search, which is very interesting. So if anyone wants a class like that, please let us know. And the fun fact for Google search is its original code name was Backrub. Yep. Anyway, I found that interesting. The next one is Gmail. This is kind of what, in my opinion, made Google into the absolute powerhouse that it is, besides all that ad revenue from Google search, is people just really liked using Gmail. They really liked the amount of storage they got for a good, solid performing email service. And then kind of once Google got people integrated with Gmail, as soon as they started rolling out other integrations and other products, it was kind of natural to start using them because you were already a part of the ecosystem because of the free email client. And the fun fact for this one is it was initially invite only. I don't know if anyone else remembers this, but you had to be invited from a Google email beta tester in order to receive access to Gmail, which was a lot of fun. It's comparable to Outlook, Yahoo Mail, Proton Mail. I'd say the only real interesting one on this list that you may not have heard of is Proton Mail. If you kind of are more security minded, Proton Mail is one of the solutions that you would be looking at. It does have a free tier, and not to get too into the weeds, but the way to look at it is Proton Mail is just more security focused, if that's something you're interested in. Next is Google Maps. Google Maps, just highly detailed maps. Lots of kind of, you can look into the past. You can see what a road looked like 30 years ago, which occasionally is fun. If you wanted to remember and wax nostalgic on what the library used to look like, you can use Google Maps, go back in time, and see that ivy that almost choked out the front wall of the building. Um, and it's just kind of really useful for directions. You can see if a business is open, closed directly in Google Maps. You can see if a lot of people Go to this business if this restaurant will be traditionally incredibly busy during that time period, and you can pick a different time to go. It's just kind of useful for a lot of mundane stuff, apart from, directions, which it also does pretty well. The fun fact for this one is it was originally called Google Local. All right, do you have any questions on Google Maps, Gmail, or search so far?
Tim, I still have a Hotmail address that I use all the time.
Yep.
And has that been turned over to Microsoft, or Microsoft now
Yep.
runs that or something?
So it was already always owned for Microsoft. Um, Originally what they wanted to do is they wanted to separate out their consumer and business accounts. So consumers would get Hotmail and business would get Outlook. They then realized that that was a losing battle and they just made both of them into the exact same type email address. So yeah, still latest and greatest, at least according to Microsoft.
Thanks.
All right. The next thing is Google Drive. This is kind of the place where all the data for the Google apps is located. This is the cloud storage for files, photos, and videos. You can compare it to Dropbox, OneDrive, iCloud Drive. One thing that's very confusing is Google Drive used to be called Google Docs, which to this day still trips me up because I'm used to calling it the old one. And you have a free amount of storage with your free Google account. I think it's 15 gigabytes or so, which is more than enough if all you want to do is store documents. However, once you start adding photos and especially videos to the mix, you'll need to up the tier and start paying money, unfortunately. But this is where Google wants you to store all of your documents. And we've had specific classes on cloud storage, and Google Drive is definitely one of the top three options that we recommend. Google Photos. This is just Google's viewer for storing photos online. Um, you can set it up even if you have an iPhone. You can set it up to anytime you take a picture on your smartphone, it automatically goes into Google Photos. Google Photos makes it very easy to search for different types of photos. For example, if you have a dog and you want to find pictures of your dog, you can just go to Google Photos and search dog, and you'll just see all the pictures in Google Photos that Google believes there to be a dog in it. You can also do collections, which are kind of, if you go on a trip, you can add a collection and add all the photos from that trip into the collection, and then it makes it easily searchable as well. Google Photos offers a fantastic free storage for photos and videos, if you allow it to reduce the size of your photos. So it will compress them a little bit, which really cuts down on the amount of space they take up. This allows you to store tens of thousands of photos for free.
I thought they started charging for that service, Google Photos.
They charge, but it's based on the amount of size you take up. So you still have the free amount of storage. So as long as your photos don't exceed that free amount, you can use it for free, essentially. But you're probably referencing that Google Photos used to be free, unlimited photo storage, and
Yeah,
they did change that. So now it's using the same amount of data that you have available for Google Drive.
So Tim, if you're taking the photo on an iPhone, will the shot be saved to the Apple device as well as Google?
Correct. Yep. You can even be in a weird situation where you have iCloud turned on for photos, you have Google Photos turned on, and you have Amazon Video, or sorry, Amazon Photos. So you take a photo, it gets saved to your local device, it gets saved to Apple iCloud, it gets saved to Google Photos, it gets saved to Amazon. It just gets saved everywhere. But yeah, you basically get to choose where you would like the photo to be stored, and you have a lot of options.
The original resolution, is that, like if it's on the Apple phone, does Apple Photos keep it at the original resolution and Google reduces it, or where is your?
It's it's explicitly how you select it. So by default, uh, I believe it will, by default, I believe Apple will convert it to its own HEIC codec, which other applications don't really like. And that's in order to save space and reduce file size. Whereas I think by default, Google, I forget what they call it, but Google will also want to compress it a little bit. But in all of these applications, you can always choose to store as original, which means there's no data lost. The only negative is the file is substantially larger. All right. YouTube. Yep, Google owns YouTube. Even though this says it's comparable to Vimeo and Dailymotion, I don't think it is. Google's kind of done a good job of killing off all of its competition in this space. YouTube's basically the biggest platform out there for videos online. And it's just a video sharing platform for watching and uploading videos. With your Google account, you have free access to upload videos to YouTube. And if you get enough people subscribing, you can even make some money if you so want to. All right, not too much to talk about with YouTube. Google Meet. Google Meet. Google really tried to push this out to make it more popular than it ended up becoming. Whenever uh, around 2020, whenever it was trying to take away market space from Zoom. And they did an okay job at it. I would not say it's my favorite, but it's definitely usable. It's good. If you're already using Google products and services, I would definitely check out Google Meet instead of potentially spending money on another solution. And it's just Google's video conferencing and online meeting platform. And it really is comparable to Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, and a whole bunch of other options. Google Classroom, if anyone has a kid or is going to college, you may have experience with Google Classroom. It's kind of like a much nicer version, in my opinion, of Blackboard, which allows you to see all of your classes, allows you to see all of your assignments remotely, turn stuff in remotely. Um, it's kind of nice because there's no more dog ate my homework kind of solutions or excuses because you're supposed to put it online. So if your dog did eat your homework, it meant your dog ate your computer. Um, Hopefully that doesn't happen as often as dogs seem to eat printed out pieces of paper. And it's good. I imagine most people won't interact with it, but if you ever get the chance, it's a solid product. Google Play Store, if you're an Android phone, this is where you go to get your apps. This is comparable to the Apple App Store, which is what you use on an iPhone. We have one of my absolute favorites, Google Translate. Google Translate does a whole bunch of stuff really well. It's an online and offline translation service for text and speech. If you have, I forget how many languages they have exactly, but there are a number of languages that you can select and you can also download, which means that if you do not have cell service or if you're in a different country, you do not need to use your data in order to translate to and from text and speech. So, for example, I went to Italy recently, and by recently I mean like a year ago. And it was very convenient to, if the person I was speaking with had even a slightly better grasp of English than I had of Italian, we could take this app, put it on the table in front of us, both speak our respective languages into it, and it would convert it, translate it, and allow us to have a conversation. And it is able to translate over 100 languages, and I believe it's something like 30-ish languages that it has available for offline translation. The other thing you're able to do with it is take a photo of something like a menu, and it will convert it into whatever language you prefer. But the big thing for me is it allows you to talk to it in one language. It will convert it to the second language, and then it will allow the other person to respond, and it will convert it into English. So it's really like having a little translator with you at all times. Are there any questions on some of the Google applications I've just gone over?
No, but I could see that using the translator for recipes from a different country
Yep.
and take a picture of that and then, have it translated. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's surprisingly well implemented. I know in the past, whenever I would try to use something like this, I was very clearly cognizant of the fact that I was using a device because I had to spend a lot of attention on it to make sure it was working right. Whereas this one, you kind of just you can kind of forget that you're using it. It just becomes kind of a natural thing to do because it's pretty low effort on your end. It's doing great work. You don't really have to do much, so you kind of it just allows you to be more in the moment. All right. Google Voice. This is a fun one. It's a phone service that provides a single phone number for multiple devices. Basically, if you have a small business and you would like a phone number that is not your personal number to give out, you can use Google Voice. It allows you to have all the things that you kind of really like as a business, like voicemail transcription. It can also forward calls directly to your personal number if you want. You can set it to automatically screen your calls. And what I mean by that is someone calls the Google Voice number, you can have it act like a receptionist and say, like, press one to leave a message, uh, blah, 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 press two to be forwarded, blah, blah, blah. Um, a lot of interesting features. And you're going to ask me what the price is, and the price is free unless you're talking international stuff, and then you start paying money. But to get this set up, it's free. The one annoyance with it, I will say, or one main annoyance, is New Hampshire has been out of phone numbers for like 5 or 6 years. So if you sign up for Google Voice, um, yeah, you're gonna be calling from, I don't know, Massachusetts kind of thing. You just can't find a Peterborough number, a Keene number, a Merrimack number. So your number will be for somewhere not in New Hampshire. But for a small business, this is absolutely fantastic. And yes, you can send and receive text messages as well. I know this is a lot of information. Are there any questions about Google Voice?
I have a question about WhatsApp. When I went to Ireland about 6 years ago, I used WhatsApp to call my husband, who was back in the States, and that was free. Are you saying if I used Google Voice, I would have to pay?
I don't think so. Personal numbers, I don't think you'd have an issue with, mainly because Google Voice purely relies on data, just like WhatsApp. So that is separate from kind of a cell phone where you have to worry about the carrier or the provider of your SIM card for other countries.
Hmm.
Yep. That being said, I've never tried to call from another country using Google Voice. So I can't 100% say it works how I expect. All right. Google Earth. People were talking about this about a decade ago. They've integrated a lot of kind of what made Google Earth special. Google has integrated it into Google Maps, but still Google Earth is fantastically fun. It renders a 3D representation of Earth based on increasingly better satellite imagery. And you can also explore the moon and Mars in Google Earth. But when we had a class on Google Earth before, one of the fun things you could do is you could find very weird things using Google Earth. The other thing that's nice with Google Earth is there are dedicated communities like hikers who will create paths with trail markers and they'll upload it to Google Earth. So you can kind of follow other people's paths that they've found to be interesting. So it's a fun thing to play around with. As far as its like pure usefulness, it's more of a curiosity sating application as opposed to like a business use, in my opinion. Google Scholar, basically scholarly articles. This is Google's solution to specifically search for them. Academic articles, theses, books, legal opinions. It's just a different search that kind of narrows it down to kind of more intense literature. So if it's useful for you, you've probably already been using it kind of thing. Google Analytics, once again, if you're a small business and you want to know where people are getting to your website from, Google Analytics is a great choice. Also, if you're an amazingly large business, it's a good choice. They have wonderful documentation on kind of in a class style of learning how to use Google Analytics. So if you kind of want to do a little bit more marketing for your business than you are currently using, Google Analytics is a pretty good place to start. The other benefit is it directly loads into things like Google Sheets. So you're able to access all of the data and kind of do manipulations and figure out trends and stuff of that nature. Kind of fitting with that is Google Ads. This is how you can spend money to advertise your business in the search results. And this is how Google makes most of its money, is Google Ads. Any questions about Scholar Analytics or ads before I go on to the AI stuff that they offer? All right. And for the record, I do have a marketing person that can come in and teach a class if it's requested, specifically about how to kind of make sure you're set up for success for a small business, if that's something people want. All right, Google Gemini. It has a bunch of fancy words up there. Multimodal, sure. All right, so it's an AI. It's a chat-based AI. It is comparable to OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. It's comparable to Claude. They keep going back and forth as to which is the best. Gemini, so Google just came out with Gemini 2.0, as opposed to 1.5. It can't tell you what the difference is. Supposedly it's better, you know, yay. Um, it is one of the better ones that's available. One of the interesting things that Gemini can do that other AIs don't do is they have the ability for you to speak to it and it respond. So this isn't a thing of a situation of you talking to it instead of typing. This is really more of a conversation. So you ask questions or make statements. It will respond to you. You can then further ask it to talk about what it just said, explain something to you. It can come up with recipes with you on the fly and tell you how to do it. Um, it basically allows for a more hands-free operation of an AI assistant. Um, it's been fun to play around with. Ultimately, I prefer to type my questions and get them in a more structured format. But it is interesting to just kind of talk to your phone and have it respond for the entire length of a conversation. The next one is a personal favorite of mine these days, Notebook LM. This was this was initially for students to upload coursework or notes that they've taken, and then be able to ask the AI questions specifically about what they uploaded. The reason why this is powerful is if you've been to one of our previous classes about AI, is that if you ask AI a question, it will grab information from everywhere to give you an answer. If you ask Notebook LM a question, it will search what you've provided to give an answer, which is a huge difference. So it has less of the whole AI lying to you thing. It also is better at interpreting your data because it doesn't try to go out and find other data. Yeah, the other really cool thing with Notebook LM that it's really good at doing is generating summaries or explanations of the data that you've inputted. And you can also ask it to create essentially a podcast of information you've provided. And I have been absolutely amazed at how well it has summarized and talked about the data that I've provided in a podcast format in terms of me being able to understand uh, what it's talking about. I guess apparently I'm an audio learner because I find it a lot easier to listen and for me to retain information that way as opposed to reading a written document. Very powerful. Both of these you can use for free. And then Google Keep. This is an unsung hero. This is a little note-taking app that you can share with friends and family. So things like grocery lists, that's what this is good at. You can have a grocery list with your significant other. Both of you can add to it. Both of you can mark when something's complete. It's comparable to, Apple Notes, Microsoft OneNote, Evernote, pretty much any note-taking application. Um, if you're already using Google, Google Keep is kind of just a very useful, tiny tool. Yeah. Were there any questions on the AI portion or Google Keep? And then we can do general. All right. Seems like I've talked enough to wear everyone out. Once again, Rebecca's going to ask for kind of if people would like another class specifically going over one or two of these options.
What is the fault we're having with Google Mail?
And then just feel free to answer that. And we will do a class where we do kind of a deep dive in how to use how it looks, how to do different things within the Google ecosystem, as opposed to this kind of general overview of what can these programs do.
Well, Tim, I just have one question. I don't know if it's appropriate to ask now or not, but my husband has trouble with his Gmail. They're telling him, what are they telling you? That you have too much in your Gmail?
Enough space.
Not enough space. Is there a way to fix that?
Yeah, so if you're in Gmail, or any of kind of the main Google apps, on the bottom left, there will be an option for you to click on that basically says free up storage space. And if you click on that, it will then tell you uh, where your storage space is going. So you'll be able to see, oh, I have a lot of videos, or oh, I have a lot of photos, or I have a lot of documents. And then kind of from there, you can kind of figure out what you need to delete.
Okay, so it is telling him he has too many photos. Does he have to delete the photos or can he send them somewhere where he could save them?
Yeah, he can always download all of your photos or some of the photos and then delete those from Google Photos. The other option is, and this would be a contextual menu. It may say you want to reduce the photo size, basically take them away from being original and put them into the compressed format. The other thing you can do is, unfortunately, the other solution is to, pay the money to get the higher tier of storage.
Okay,
Photo stick.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I will say I use Google products very extensively in my personal life, and I use Microsoft products very extensively for business. So if anyone has any questions about, how to do one or the other or how they compare, we can definitely go much, much deeper into that in a class. If you guys want to learn about, you know, Google Calendar or something, I can really do a compare and contrast if people want as to Outlook versus Google Calendar if people have questions about transitioning. But any questions, just let us know and just answer the survey as to potentially what the second Google Apps class will be over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.